क्या वो अब ना वहां से सबसे पहले अपने लिए कीरिंग लेना, ठीक है? Hello everyone, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to this 13th edition of AMA Ask Me Anything ClariTeaChat. But this is the 69th edition of ClariTeaChat. And as always, I begin the session by thanking all of you for your engagement, encouragement, and questions coming from all over the world. So I'm traveling to UK right now. I'm sitting right now in my son's room and taking this chat. And you can see that we are filling up his shelves right now. I just stole some time, just to, keep the momentum on and maybe, like take 30, 45 minutes out of my um, quite a bit of traveler schedule here to connect with all of you. This is my weekly stimulant, intellectual stimulant that I don't want to give up and make sure that we continue the momentum. As I have been here for last 4 or 5 days, I will definitely share some of my, I would say, reflections on what I have seen here. With with the lenses of processes and technology that I bring in. I've also had some very stimulating discussions, with a friend and his son, and maybe I'll cover some of those experiences also. And this was just advisory on the fly. But those were good discussions, which I think I should be sharing with you. We do have some backlog of past questions, so we can cover some of these. But of course, the priority always goes to the live questions from you. Okay, so as always, you will get some honest answers, my personal insights, and maybe some case studies, examples, and the thought processes. As I said to my friend in UK that I don't want to be prescriptive about what I tell you, but I would like to give you the thought process on how to think about it. Therefore, it's all experiences, no gyan. But before I go ahead, let me request my audiences to share your name and where you're joining from in the comment box of LinkedIn or YouTube. And let's see who all have already joined in. And please keep your comments coming. So we do have Ravikant here. By the way, Ravikant, you share your name with my mentor, who retired as the vice chairman of Tata Motors. Almost Always good to see that name out there. Thank you for joining. Then we have uh, Howdy from Texas. I know this can't be anybody other than Sets. Hey, hi, Sets. Thanks for connecting, man. Okay, so we do have Karthikeyan. He has a long question. I'll come back to that, Karthikeyan, but thanks for connecting. We have Senthil joining from Bangalore. We have Sumit from my team. Hey, Sumit, thanks for egging everyone on to ask your questions. We have Amir. Thanks, Amir, for joining us here. We have Daattatray from Muscat. Thank you, Daattatray, for joining. And Amir says he's from Mumbai. Okay, Amchi Mumbai, in terms of a city. Though I have relocated to Pune, but Mumbai remains the first love. I love the energy of Mumbai. Okay, so let me take the first question first. That came right as we went live. So Karthikeyan is asking that, hi, after the UK left the EU, does it still fall under and implement the GDPR IT compliance and security regulations, or does it follow its own regulations under the ambit of Axelos ITIL framework? If it does follow GDPR as its biggest trading partner in EU, then why is there no zero trust security compliance? Specifically, the experience I've had supporting EMEA customers, including UK ones, is that all forms of their lockdowns aren't read-only and non-overwritable. So that's Microsoft. Oh my God! So Karthikeyan, this is a very technical question. To be frank, I haven't delved into it. Yeah, I think many people, um, most of us haven't realized that not being part of EU also raises a question on GDPR. But I've got a sort of thought process on GDPR in terms of the compliance. What you will see is that uh, it's especially in terms of the digital corporations. The world is their market. I don't think anyone can have feasibility serving UK alone or Europe alone, and therefore anyone serving UK is logically likely to serve the EU and vice versa, and therefore uh, you know it's far better for them to bring in the same level of compliance to other countries rather than have differentiated compliance and therefore a lot of overheads. So I mean, a very very unstudied and very sort of surface answer to your question is that yes, I don't know what it is, but if I were a organization who was serving EU, I would rather bring the same compliances to UK and vice versa. I mean, the other parts of the which are a little technical, I don't have the answer, but I throw it open to the audience. If anyone in audience can has an answer to it or has an experience about it, either you can share it in the comments or just ping my team and I can get you on this live session and we can quickly discuss this. So and even you, Karthikeyan, if you have a point of view on this, you're welcome to join me live on this chat. Okay, so yeah, then now let's go to some of my experiences here. I can say these are like insights coming out of my experiences as I'm moving around UK and just making my. So my son has come to study here in University of Essex, and I am sort of helping him settle down. So we came a little early, just sort of to soak in the country and the weather. It's the beginning of winter here, so you can see me in a in a thick sweater kind of shirt. Um, yeah, so my first, I would say, wow moment was in their trains. So one of my relatives, where we were staying, he kind of got us familiar with the train system here, and I was really amazed that on my India debit card, I just it's like a typical debit card. I tap it, on the entry, the gate opens, and I travel anywhere. and I tap it at the exit, and the loop gets closed and I get charged. So I don't really need to buy a ticket. I don't really need to sort of buy a coupon or a token, and it just makes it so easy. The other thing that that's again a sort of insight is the clockwork precision. So so here is what happened. Um, I was visiting my friend near Leeds. The place is called Skipton, and we had this train that would reach Leeds at, let's say, 13:10, and we have the next train from Leeds to Skipton at 13:20, 10 minutes layover, and then the next one like after half an hour. So going by our stretchable time, philosophy, we actually booked the ticket for 40 minutes later train, and then we see that the train is dot there at 13:10, and we could easily would have caught the 13:20 train. And this happened a few times, so it's not really a one-off experience, but it happened a few times. So every time we kept a 30-40 minute buffer, and then we actually didn't need that buffer. Now, my reflection on that is, I'm sure it requires a huge amount of uh, you know uh, technology controlled operations, and that rigor that comes, and the exception handling mechanisms that keep your operations on track. So I must say that I'm amazed by the operations management of the UK train system, um, which actually is very old, but still it runs like clockwork, and you don't actually need 30 minutes of buffer in your plans. You can do it 10 minutes. Um, yeah, so those are about the train system. But apart from that, I had an interesting chat with my friend, with one of my friends, and his question to me was, that I love doing operations, and my boss keeps telling me write SOPs, and um, do this, do that, and I'm only evaluating it from the lens of the customer. Does it add value to the customer or not? And if I find it's not, which is like it's not core to my delivery operations, I kind of switch off, and I deprioritize it. So, and this, he sensed that is kind of leaving him behind, or kind of creating some sort of concern in his mind. you know, I'm picking this up because it happens to so many of us. That um, we really love what we are doing. Especially if it's a customer facing role, we love the value that we are adding. We love the way the customer loves us, um, and how we are keeping the lights on and all of that. And uh, always that when the manager um, tells you that, hey, contribute more, bring in some knowledge, write some SOPs, give us some dashboards, etc., etc., we think that why do I need to do that? So here are three or four thought processes I left him with, which he really liked, and I thought that it's probably good to pick it up here. So number one was, um, and this I invented on the fly. See, so he's kind of middle management, and I said, listen, you have a set of outcomes, which is you, which is why, right? And then you have a set of resources on the right hand side of the equation, which is like your different team leaders, and then your, what do you call, your customer stakeholders, etc., etc., etc. And to get what you need, which is why, what your desired outcomes are, you are always managing this equation of 3x plus m square minus n into k plus etc., etc., which is nothing but every resource that you have on your hand. But here comes the thing: when it comes to your manager or your boss, right, you are now on the right side of the equation. Okay, so for his why, there are many of these, many of this ABC, MNOP, and all these variables and constants, and you're one of them, right? Now, think about it in terms of your role. Isn't the situation the same with all of us? That when we look at things from our point of view, we have many variables at hand which we are managing, optimizing, and maximizing. And then we come on the other side when you look at from the manager's point of view. So what's the message here? The message here is, and this is what I left him with, is that when you're on the right side of the equation, then you can either be a plus to the equation or you can be a multiplier to the equation. And when you're going to be successful or when you're going to get the get the opportunities that your bosses are going to come up with for their teams, and they're going to give these opportunities to the people who are on the multiplier elements of the equation rather than people who just add up to that equation. So how does it sum up? So whatever we are doing, end of the day, with all our peers, it is all being plus 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 to the equation. Okay, there are those aspects which are multipliers. For example, knowledge management. For example, writing down SOPs and improving those SOPs, or for example, sharing your knowledge, or for example, giving loads of ideas to your manager or to your peers. And these are things that that create that multiplier for you, where you are looked at not only as just an addition in the equation, but someone who can be a force multiplier, who does things that are force multipliers, and therefore you are looked up for getting promoted, or for taking on larger responsibilities. The second question he had was that I love that I love delivering to the customers, and I have been hesitating to take up a managerial role, and I don't want to do managerial. Okay. So I was like, yeah, but you know what? I mean, you're handling a, let's say, $6 million account today. Why do you think you need to become a manager? Why don't you look around and see, is there a $15 million account to be managed, or a $30 million account to be managed? Um, and you do what you're doing, but you do it at a different scale. And number two is that but going from even that 6 to 30 will require you to show these multipliers that you bring to the operation, because you will need all of those multipliers. What you're doing to manage a 6 million account will not be sufficient, or will not work when you have to manage a $30 million account. So you got to bring this to a sort of a certain level of automation, delegation, transparency, KPIs, and then you have to move on to the big ones. So I hope you get the message, that what you're doing currently, even though it's adding a ton of value to your organization, you still have to look at, how much of it is an addition to the organization goals, and how much of it is, creating a multiplying factor for the organization, or for your department, or for your manager. And all the good things that we talk about in leadership, whether managing people, or whether doing things the best way possible, etc., etc. They're all multipliers, and they'll help you. So yeah, so let me know your thoughts on what you heard just now. Whether you agree, disagree, like, dislike, let me know. I mean, for me, like, I'm sitting in a hostel all alone, and talking to you, and it really is very, very important that when I get your comments, and I know, hey, you know what, I'm not talking to a screen, but somebody's listening to me. And thank you for sending your comments. Okay, so let me go back to our friends uh, who have joined the chat here, and they're sending hellos. So we have Milind, Ujlamkar, hi Milind. So Milind is an ex-colleague. Thank you for joining. He's joining from Pune, he says. And then we have Sunil Punjabi, again a regular on ClariTeaChat. Thanks, Sunil, for joining. Another hello, but hey, as you can see, I can't see your name, but hi there. Um, yeah, so I think this is Sats sending in a comment. Early on, one of my mentors said, do the work of the level that you want to get promoted into already. That's I have a sense that maybe I would have told you that, because this is something I tell to all my to everyone who works with me, that the best way to grow in your career is to do the work of your next level before you get there. So don't get into this comfort zone of, listen, this is my JD and this is my roles and responsibilities and this is what I do. And as long as I'm doing it fine, I'm good. Well, you may be good, but for growth, you need to look at what else. How do I multiply them? How do I multiply into the equation? Yeah, so Amir has a comment on this discussion. So this seems to be a good discussion. He says, great point. At some point, you would also like to be on the left side of the equation. These multipliers are always helpful. Absolutely. So, you have to start looking at yourself on the right side of the equation when you're on the left side of the equation. So, when you're on the left side of the equation, all the resources, your team members, team leaders, next line people, architects, developers, uh, you would always notice those multipliers distinctly. You would always notice that, hey, this is a guy who's going beyond the call of duty to be a multiplier into my equation. And then, when an opportunity comes to you, and you know what, I think we all know that these opportunities, they don't come directly to you, they always come through your managers or your managers managers. That whenever those growth vectors start appearing, they're always looking for the who is the person who can grow into that role, who's that person who can take this up. And so they're keeping an eye out for all these people having the multiplying effect. And and if you are the one who's going beyond and is like showing up as a multiplier, you will get those opportunities. And it happened with me as well, and I shared this incident with him. That when we were graduate trainees in Jamshedpur, that's like the golden period, that's the honeymoon period, where you don't really have to work much, you just have to raise your hand, I'm there, and then just do your basic learning and then can go. But I was always like, well, I did some of that as well, but I made sure that the primary part of what I was supposed to do, we were doing, always enthusiastic, connecting with people, learning on the shop floor, getting my hands dirty. And beyond that, I was also participating in youth hostel activities. So I was going on treks and I was going on, we were organizing, some social activities, etc. And then what happened? An opportunity came where a team had to go to Karthikeyan for erecting a 75-ton crane in a completely knocked down format. So, almost like 50 plus boxes of that. It was pretty tough job because food was a problem, getting there was a problem. It would take you 3 days to reach Car Nicobar, a flight to Port Blair, and then waiting for some time for the ship to leave for the trip across Andaman and Nicobar, and then almost a 24-hour journey to Car Nicobar. And we were four of us, and when he was looking around, hey, who do I send? I kind of stood out, not just because I was like, overarching in my learning and whatever I was given, but also because, he knew that I'm asking for offs and I'm asking for excuses or, whatever to do these extracurricular activities. And he was like, Jagdish, I think you're the only one who can survive this. Okay, probably the, one of the times that my outside of work interests actually got me, a push into what I was doing at work. Just one example. Okay, so Amir is putting one more point out here. He says good operations are always a sigma of people, process, and technology, all integral cogs in the wheel. Absolutely, Amir. You're so right. I know we are always doing that. When I'm the manager, I'm doing the sigma, and that, as I said, the optimization and maximization of what is on the right side for me. But when I'm on the right side and my boss is on the left side, it's very important for me to look at how am I being perceived on the left side. Am I being perceived as a plus or a minus or a multiplier? And that should tell me, like, what else I need to do to grow. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sats. Yes, I remember I told you that. Thanks for acknowledging. Yes. So we have Daattatray asking us from Oman, does CISO needs to be conversant with the privacy aspects of data? Then what do we expect from DPO, Data Protection Officer, and CRO, Chief Risk Officer in the organization? Oh, good question, Dattatre. And I think your answer of the question is in the question itself. It's like, there are common aspects, there are common terms in your question. So the answer to the question is risk equal to data protection equal to information security? And you will know that the answer is neither a yes nor a no. The answer is like an overlap. And I think, again, this is like one thought process I want you to I want everyone to think about, is that life is not really a yes or no always. Okay, life is more like, the set theory, where you have, the intersections and unions of things. Okay, so while data protection and information security, is within the ambit of overall risk, there are definitely going to be overlaps between the two, and these overlaps always exist in the organization. So what we need to do is to identify where these overlaps are and create the methods for shared decision making, okay, which uh, go beyond the simple question of, do I need to do this or does he need to do this, right? So you will find that many times, most of the times, the answer is that we need to do it together, and therefore you need to create a decision making mechanism to uh, a joint decision making mechanism. And let me now give you the word for that. A joint decision making mechanism is called governance. Okay, and governance is such an important and such an I would say, mm, understood process. Um, and so I would say that, if you understand the whole process of governance and you're able to set up good governance processes, that's another of your multipliers that you will have. And what that means is that your stakeholders, whoever are impacted by your decision, will always be happy. They'll never have a complaint because you're involving them in your decision making, right? So, I mean, when I was, when we set up the information security, again, information security happens to be something similar, where it's like everyone is responsible for information security, but there's one person, CISO, and if this person, or whoever you may call it, if this person wants to do it alone, he or she cannot do it alone. You have to involve other people. So what we did was, we set up this information security governance where we looked at everyone who would be asked to come and clean up the mess if an incident happens. We got all of them into the governance, and we said, listen, I don't want to come to you to clean up the mess. I want you to help us prevent the mess. And this message went across, and we had a very healthy mix of leaders, right from sales to manufacturing to corporate affairs like legal and communication and finance and HR. Everyone participating in a healthy discussion on setting up well balanced policies with with very thoughtful, I would say, ifs and buts in those policies, to make sure that the compliance is high, no one has a complaint, and it's a balance between between being able to do business without any holds versus versus balancing the information security. So I would say the answer to that, Dattatrey, is in are in governance and identifying the overlaps, and especially making sure that you are taking joint decisions there. Okay. So yes, keep the questions coming. So Tushar Lohani is asking. I hope it's Tushar Lohani or not Lohani. So let me know, Tushar, is if it is A or double A. So Tushar is asking, sir, how do you think the IT role would be supporting poised to digital India? If you can explain in simple words. The way you are saying looks to me that I explain things in complex words, but let me give it a try. I'm just pulling your leg, Tushar. Um, See, digital India. The great thing about digital India is it's creating a sort of infrastructure and framework, for a larger and larger participation from everyone. It's basically creating open architectures and open frameworks for people to participate. Right now, as an organization, I think every one of the organizations are looking at increasing their span of, like, market or span of consumers, and the impact you are making on the consumers. Therefore, what we need to do is to look out as IT. We need to look out for what is coming out there. Whether it's UPI or whether it's ONDC or whether it is like anything else that the government is doing. Like for example, eKYCs and all of that, and leverage those to your organization's advantage. So digital India is more about putting your anchors and leveraging the initiatives and architectures that are coming in digital India to make your own organizations more efficient and optimized. um, well, the government is doing its part in terms of setting up everything that reduce the cost of doing business, that reduce the transaction overheads, that reduce the paperwork in your operations. And it's up to you whether you want to benefit it or not, benefit from that or not, because um, eventually you have to look at it from the customer's point of view. Because so whatever is happening in digital India, it's actually making it much easier for citizen to be able to go about their life and do any of the transactions, and you be part of it, and you become a preferred supplier, uh, just because you're making it easier for people to do business with you, whether you're B2B or whether you're B2C. Latch on to digital India for making it easy to do business with, and in the process getting a first mover advantage, and just optimizing your operations in a big way. Okay, so Tushar has another question. He says, what would be upcoming challenges and changes in order to maintain the data privacy, wherein we are more depending upon the automatic systems? So I'm not really a big expert, Tushar, on data privacy, but my first principle way of thinking about it is, the more you have automation, um, the less you have chances of data leakage. Because let's take a scenario how data privacy issues come in, right? So let's take, you know, for example, opening a bank account, right, or doing something with your bank. Now you fill up a form where you put in a lot of information, including personal information, right from your phone numbers to your PAN card, Aadhaar card, and everything. And then this form, this physical form, actually goes to a processing center, which is, let's say, typically outsourced. Okay, and they would enter this information, and then this form will go and get archived somewhere, and then your information will be there in the digital form. Now compare it with a situation where, let's say, you are opening an account on a tab, right? So there is no physical form being filled up. This form is not passing around, to a processing center. Is not being touched by any human being, and the data is directly going into your system. So you have reduced significantly the number of touch points of the data of sensitive private data with human beings in the entire chain. Um, then your entire data privacy equation, a lot of your data privacy equation becomes a function of the technologies that you are taking to secure your data rather than the human aspects of handling data. GDPR very clearly says, puts the onus of data privacy on you, even if your partners are handling that data. So it puts you jointly accountable. So not only you, but your outsourcing partners, your data handlers, everyone is responsible. So if there's a leakage from a small BPO running somewhere in let's say a developing country, they leak customer data, the onus is still on you, right? So automation, there should be a bias. What we call as the left shift, to getting more and more automation, reducing the number of human touch points, and then investing very wisely in the mechanisms and the technologies to protect your data. I hope that makes sense, Tushar. Um, let me know. And okay, so Tushar Lohani. Okay, thanks, Tushar, for that. And we have Pawan here joining from Kolkata. So yeah, I think good questions, good discussion. I don't think we went beyond my experiences in UK. But let me, before I wanted to keep it as a short, like about 30 to 45-minute session, just to keep the momentum going and not have a break in our ClariTeaChat series. Um, I had an interesting discussion with his son and my son. So I'm now talking to my friend to whom I went, and it was about, like, computer science versus electronics, right? And how should I choose a career? And I was like, I mean, if you believe me, from my experience, being a mechanical engineer, going around in the field, coming to headquarters, participating in an IT program, and then getting sucked into IT. If I was your age and I was doing my career planning and I was spending the amount of time, and anxiety that you're doing right now, uh, 30 years later, like, I would have been proved a fool. Okay, because I spent a lot of time doing all of this, and listen, and you look where I ended up with. I spent a ton of time choosing mechanical, and I end up in IT. So the answer, the few parts of the answer, and, like, like the rule of three. Let me tell this to you. And I think, again, I'm picking this up because a lot of us are, at a phase where we have to help our kids choose careers. We have to help our kids, go through, I would say, sort out their anxieties about careers and all. So the first thought process is, be open. Okay, while you may spend a lot of time in choosing what stream you want to get, and there are too many of them today, just be open. Always keep an open mind in terms of opportunities, in terms of experimenting with what you're doing. So things came to me because I was open. I joined Tata Motors for the love of automobiles, but then I found that there's far more technical stimulation and technical challenge, and and that customer facing kick that is there in construction equipment. So I simply pivoted to construction equipment, and then of course I came back to automobiles and did my bit there. But if I hadn't spent those 3 4 years in construction equipment, I wouldn't have got that deep insight into the customer's pains, the customer's aspirations, the customer's expectations from an organization, and how that needs to kind of roll up into the various systems, processes, controls, and various things from an organization point of view. So when I went to headquarter, this experience came to my. I really leveraged that experience. So be open. That's the first one, and be open to opportunities. You get an opportunity in a completely different field, and you see that, hey, you know what, everything gets ticked in terms of let's say money and money, environment, culture, etc., etc. And like, oh, but I chose this. I chose electronics. How can I go into computer science? No, never let that happen to you. Okay. Second thought process was uh, be clear about what you want from college, right? Um, so, like for example, if you're looking at any of the programming, okay, let me say it differently. Okay, so I asked him to bring out the differences between a physical university and an online university. Okay, so I said, listen, you need to choose a course in a physical university where what the physical university will give you can never be provided by an online university. So let's map out the differences, and together we kind of just started putting out the points out there, um, and uh, and started discussing. And so 3 or 4 points that came out. Number one, right, I think programming languages and some of the stuff that you can learn, right, that you can learn outside of it. So why go to university for that? Number two, what you can get in a, physical university that you will never get in an online university is mentoring, and those professors who will push you to achieve your potential, who will push you to think differently, think beyond, do your research and all of that. And that's something you will probably find difficult in online university. I've yet to see an example where an online university does that, right? So that's like the second one, which means that you got to pick up something where you will be pushed fairly deep by your professors. And the third one is the mentoring, and the network. So, like for example, the college sports, you won't get online the what do you call hustles, and the networking opportunities that you get there. The kind of accelerators who are there in your university, etc., etc. So there's a lot that happens in a university. So choose wisely. Don't look at just from a subject point of view, but look at it that what are the additional points, what are the additional aspects that you will get from a physical university, and then combine it with what I can learn on my own, or online, and then try to maximize the entire experience, and get loads of value from both modes. um, yeah, so that was another one I wanted to share with all of you. Okay. um, so Karthike, you know I don't know if you want to come on the chat with me, but if you want, please please join. I can see some long questions from you. 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4. But let me still bring it up before I close the session. So So Karthik says, thanks for answering my question partially at the beginning of this session. I would like to give some background to my question. Customers and Microsoft technical support agents alike are benefited when the integrity of the log dumps that IT admins have, the agents upload to the Microsoft FTP site is authentic and trustworthy. Integrity of data for the on-premises Windows consumer is already present with the Microsoft support. Um, both Sarah and the Microsoft Office configuration analyzer tool that Sarah replaced has save files as editable, flag text, etc., etc. Thus, IT admins can upload log files to Microsoft FTP site that may have questionable integrity, which can be easily compromised. Okay. To identify and analyze the root cause investigation and urgent work on this. Oh, so Karthik, I can see that this is something that's close to your heart. I sort of got a sense of what you're saying. It is basically improving security by taking the logs from customers. It's relatively much easier to get these logs from B2C consumers, but what I understand is that it's becoming a challenge for the B2B customers because of the regulations, etc. Let me simply say, with with humbleness, I don't have answers to your question. So, but I would encourage anyone in the audience, who has a point of view on this to contribute to the discussion and maybe help Karthik. But thanks, Karthik, for writing those long messages. Even though I can't, answer those, let me say that I really appreciate you taking the time to jot these down. Okay. I think you have a link to our studio in your inbox if you want to check and if you want to join. Um, but I think we are running out of time a little bit. I just need to go and do some shopping for my son now before I move on for my next leg of travel to USA. Okay. Folks, we do have some backlog of questions from the last time, and I'm really inclined to answer them, but I'll hold myself back, you know, just to balance out, just to balance it out between my personal time and the Clarity Chat. So, thank you everyone for joining this session. I do hope you liked some of the discussions that I shared with you with my friends, and I must also say that my friend and the kids that I had those discussions with. I hope you guys don't mind me sharing those thoughts with everyone out here, because I just thought that those are really important ones to be shared with you. So, on that note, thank you everyone for attending, engaging, asking questions. Karthik, especially taking out the time to type out those long ones, and and my thanks to all of you who are watching it over the weekend and afterwards the recorded version. Please do enjoy your family time. I'll be back next Saturday. That is, yes, 8th October. I'll be in the US and I'll be bringing an exciting and very, very thoughtful leader, on Clarity Chat. Yes, I will have to connect a little bit early, which is 7:30 in the morning, which to match our 5 p.m. IST timeline. But this keeps me going. Clarity Chat keeps me going. Clarity Chat keeps my energy levels and my motivation going, and I'm like always looking around for thoughts to share with all of you, not just on this but as well as LinkedIn. So let's connect next week, 8th October, 5 p.m. India time, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. Till then, goodbye. Have a great weekend.